Hi, Kerry with Best in Retirement. I'm a retired financial advisor, and I realize that particularly in this day and age, we track everything. I have a Fitbit. I track the number of steps I take. I track my heart rate. I track my temperature of my body, and when I sleep, I also track my heartbeats while I'm asleep. So everything is tracked, and if you want to track something, you can probably find an app for it. But one of the most important things in our life is accumulating money, and accumulating money for retirement. And most of us don't track it. Some people get involved with a financial advisor early on, and they do track it. But most people don't, and that's really a shame. So I wanted to do a video to help you gain some benchmarks, whatever your age is, to what you should have put aside for retirement at different ages, whether it's 35, 50, or 60, or 65. How much should you have put aside, and how can you track it as you progress through the years? I have a very fond memory. When I was a financial advisor, most of my clients were elderly. They don't really get to the point where they're interested in accumulating money for retirement until they approach retirement. But I had a young lady who was a graduate of pharmacy school, and she went to work for Walmart, and she came in and she said, I wanted a plan for my retirement. I said, well, the first thing you need to do is participate in Walmart's 401k and take their full match. She said, okay, I can do that, but I want to put some more in. I want to create an IRA. I said, okay, we can do that. So she maxed out her IRA as quickly as she could every year, and I was proud of her. She came out of college making $70,000 a year, and this was quite a few years ago. So at the time, I was very impressed. But as she told me that although you start high as a pharmacist, you don't get the raises that other people do. So I was proud of her. And then we met every quarter, and we tracked her progress. So she even started a fund for buying a house. She got married. And he seemed to be a very nice guy. He came into the appointments. He didn't have as good a job as she did, but nonetheless, they were doing well. And then they showed up one April, and they said, we want to empty the IRA. I said, what? Why do you want to empty the IRA? And she had about $35,000 in it. And I said, he says, we want to buy a boat. I said, what? Yeah, we want to buy a boat. And I said, how much is that boat going to cost you? And he said, right about $35,000. We'll have enough to pay cash. I said, do you know what that boat's going to cost you? He said, yeah, $35,000. I said, no, it isn't. It's not going to cost you $35,000. It's probably going to cost you closer to $1 million. And he said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, you're in your late 20s. And you're going to retire in 65. And if you had kept that $35,000 in there and you allowed it to compound over the years, it would be close to $1 million by the time you retired at 65. Well, that's not important. We want the boat. They took the money out, and I never saw them again. So I think it's important you track what your goal is. You set a goal, and then you track it to make sure that you hit that goal. Because if you don't, you won't. If you don't track it, you won't hit the goal. So what I want to do is give you some benchmarks, some ideas of what you should be saving at certain ages. Okay, this first chart is a chart that indicates your investor's age, and then it shows you the savings benchmark as a factor of your salary. So if you're 30 years old and you have a $40,000 salary, they're saying this benchmark says you should have $20,000 set aside for retirement. Now, I know you might also have goals that you want to buy a house. That should be separate. That should be a separate pile of money. This should be the money that you have in your 401k if you're employed and have a 401k, or a 403b, or in your IRA, a self-directed IRA. Going on up to 45 years age, let's say that you're making $80,000, based on these benchmarks, you should have between $200,000 and $320,000 set aside. Again, this is in your own private account, plus any retirement accounts that you have with your employer. Is this outrageous? No, it's not. No, it's not. This and what it really indicates, and what I have learned as a financial advisor, the more money that you make, the more money you're going to need, because you set your lifestyle based on what you make. As we go up to 60, assuming you have $100,000 that you and your wife, or you and your significant other make, you should have somewhere between $600,000 and $1.1 million. Again, it's contingent upon your lifestyle. And then at 65, it's pretty much the game is over. And if you're making $120,000, you should have $900,000 to $1.68 million set aside. Again, is that an outrageous number? No, because if you're making $120,000 a year, you're living a pretty good lifestyle. So you need to put enough money away to support that lifestyle. As I did in another video earlier, when you get into retirement, you have 3 stages of retirement, where particularly wrapped around travel. And I call it the go-go is the first, probably the first 10 years. You travel, you go everywhere, you spend a lot of money. You eat out a lot more than you will the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, you kind of no-go, or slow go. You slow down your spending, you slow down your travel. You don't go to Europe and foreign lands as much. You travel more in the community that you live in. You now have grandkids, you go to visit them. Maybe you stay with your kids. And so you don't spend as much in the second part of your retirement. And then in the third part, healthcare comes into play. So your healthcare expenses go up, but your travel all goes down as well. And those are the kind of things you need to think about as you're planning for your retirement. Then I want you to look at this chart. This chart breaks it down as to whether you're married with a dual income, married with a sole income, or you're single. And what you're going to see in here is based on your age, how much, and what your current household income is, how much you should be saving as a factor. And what you're going to see is the married couple actually doesn't need as much because they have Social Security coming in. The single couple actually needs more because they don't have, the single individual, because they don't have Social Security of 2 people, they only have of 1. So these are kind of good points to look at. Again, current household income of $200,000 a year, and you're married with a dual income. At 60, you're going to need a factor of 9. That's about what? $1.8 million. Whereas someone who is married and as a sole wage earner won't have as much Social Security because the non-wage earner will only get half of what the primary wage earner does. So they're going to need a little bit more, and the single person's even going to need more than that. So what I'd suggest you do is take a screenshot on your computer of this and then print it so that you can digest this completely and understand how you can track what your income needs, or what your savings, retirement savings, needs to be based upon your age and your lifestyle. Watch the video I did just yesterday that talks about how you have different spending levels through different times in your retirement. And then also watch the video I did relative to Medicare and what it pays, and how you need to structure your expenditures alongside your anticipated income. There's two parts to this, really. There really is, and that is the income. And that's pretty much a done deal unless you go and get a second gig or you have mailbox checks, which I've talked about in other videos, where you have a job or you do like I do. You get involved in the digital economy and you have income coming in from things that you enjoy doing. I enjoy sharing my knowledge about retirement. I enjoy doing videos, and it provides me with a substantial income. Nita and I were just out having lunch today, and I asked her, I said, what if for some reason I couldn't do the YouTube channels? How would that affect us? And she said, well, I wouldn't want to think about it. And I said, well, we need to. She said, well, what is going to keep you from doing the YouTube channels? And I says, I lose my sanity. I get Alzheimer's. I can't think. I can't study. I can't read. That would have an effect. And she said, well, I hope that doesn't happen. And I said, probably not as much as I hope it doesn't happen. But these are things we need to think about. I'm 77 years old. What is my life going to be like 10 years from now? What is my income going to be 10 years from now? I have a spreadsheet. I track it. I even get down to the point where I track every stock that I own and what I think it's going to do on an annual basis, and then I project what our assets are going to be on a year-to-year basis, because I don't want any surprises. And tracking your income, tracking your expenses, and then I believe you should track your investments as well, whether you do it through a financial advisor or you do it yourself. I personally like to do it myself because I think I can do it better than a financial advisor. I study the stock market, I know how it works, and I know the best investments I can make are in those companies that are going to change the way I live. And right now, those ways that are going to change the way I live is we are going to have a major change in our healthcare system. The coronavirus has showed us that we have to anticipate these kinds of things, and we have to administer to individuals such that they don't get affected by it. One of the big parts of that is genome sequencing and genome editing. I know that our world is changing in the fact that we have to reestablish ourselves as a manufacturing hub, or we're not going to be the superpower that we were. So I need to invest in 3D printing and robotics. I also know that the metaverse is coming. And what is the metaverse? It's Facebook, except you're active in it. I won't go any further than that. So I invest in things that are going to change the way I'm going to live, my children are going to live, and my grandchildren are going to live, and I just project into the future. So these are the benchmarks for what you should be doing and how you should be tracking for your retirement, whether you're 35 years old, whether you're 50 years old, or whether you're 65 years old. So let's work together. This is Best of Us Investors. My goal for you and me is to work together to make this the best half of your life. Okay? We can do it if we work together.